At night, you are probably going to shoot with two hands on the gun. There will probably be enough light to see, like this amount of ambient light is enough to see somebody, identify a target, see if they've got a gun, and if this was the situation, you would probably go two hands. All right, going with a flashlight, a handheld light, is going to reduce you to a one-handed shooter. There's no other way to put it. Even if your hands are touching or crossing or you're using some type of support with your weak hand, you are still shooting one-handed. So things got a lot more difficult. I don't want to handicap myself and have to shoot one-handed. That's why I love the weapon mounted lights. I can turn the light on, get two hands on the gun, see everything I need to see, and be shooting two-handed. But there may not even be time to turn that on. And that shooting I talked about earlier, there wasn't time to turn a light on. Turning your light on might alert the suspect to your location. If you got the upper hand, if you got the drop on the bad guy, why give him the advantage of saying, hey, I'm over here, I'm getting ready to shoot? That might be a bad idea, you know, tactically speaking, to turn your light on. So if you can see, if you don't need any more light, you might be to your disadvantage to grab a light or turn this thing on. So be thinking of that. So let's assume you don't have a light on your gun. You just got a flashlight in your pocket. You're walking around your house and a situation presents itself and you've got to try and identify a target or perhaps shoot. You know, what are we going to do? One option is just shooting one-handed. All right, you've got a flashlight on. You're using it either just in a typical, underhand flashlight hold, looking around, and all of a sudden you raise your gun up to shoot one-handed. That's one option. We'll talk about that. If you're close up, that might be a really good option. If there's some distance, 15, 20 yards, you might want to bear down. Shooting one-handed, 20 yards is a difficult thing to do. So for me, if I'm going with a flashlight in my hand, I'm probably using one of a couple different holds to give me some stability in my shooting platform. This right here is not very stable. When you're pulling that trigger and worrying about the gun going off, all of a sudden this becomes difficult. So to stabilize my shooting platform, one of the ways to do it is called the Harries. All right, it's not, you don't have to memorize these names or whatever, but essentially you're crossing your wrists, so you're giving your weak arm underneath your shooting arm to stabilize your shooting platform. So the backs of your hands are almost touching. Your strong wrist is resting on your weak hand wrist. So now I've got my flashlight in my weak hand. I cross my wrist and you'll notice the entire gun is beyond my weak arm, right? You want to avoid the number where you just set your gun on your weak arm, right? What's the danger of this? The muzzle now getting really close to my arm. When I go shooting and I'm resting the gun on my arm, I got a chance of shooting myself. So we're kind of on the edge of the cliff with that scenario, right? So we want our shooting hand, our handgun beyond our weak side arm, our support arm. So for me, I've usually got a flashlight that's got a tail cap switch on the end, on the butt end of the light. So when I hold the light, it's easy for me to activate it with my thumb. So I just put my weak arm out for support, activate the light, and now I've got a more stabilized shooting platform than just one-handed. All right, this is a little better than just doing this number. That's probably the most common way to run a flashlight and shoot, is crossing your wrist and shooting it that way. All right, so I'll just tell you back of the hands together, or crossing your wrists, and we'll get out and we'll show you a couple ways doing that. Another option is if you have a flashlight, a bigger light perhaps, like a mag light or a Kel light or one of those type of flashlights, they usually don't have a tail cap switch. You usually got a switch right on the barrel of the light, somewhere up near the head of the flashlight. So if you go to grip your light in this position with one of those big lights, you can't reach. If I were to do this, you wouldn't be able to reach the on-off switch. Remember, you can always just turn your light on and go through here, but we're trying to, what's one of the principles here? Minimize the use of the light. Don't leave that thing on all the time. So you can't minimize the use of the light if you can't even reach the switch. So if you've got a bigger flashlight with a switch on the barrel, now you're probably going to be holding it in a position somewhat similar to this. Right? So you can't cross your arms that way, so what your option is turning the light on and holding the gun in a position similar to this, where the barrel of the light touches the weak side of the gun, and you're in a position like this, where your hands push straight out in front of you, the light touches the gun, and we shoot from there. And that way you've got direct access to the switch, so you can turn it off in a hurry if you need to. Is it very stable? Not really, because what you'll notice is when you shoot, there's movement All right, there's movement between, there's sliding between your hand, the flashlight, and the gun. It's stable at the moment you press the trigger, but there's a lot of readjusting. Your grips come apart, the flashlight moves. For me, it's kind of this battle between the light and the gun and getting comfortable. But it might be your only option if your switch is on the barrel of the flashlight, and that's the only option you got. All right. So you've got those two. You got your wrist crossed. You've got basically, this is called a Chapman or a Rogers hold. Some flashlights like Surefires are designed for you to hold them between your fingers and then get almost a normal grip on the gun. Or Rogers or Surefire grip, and that might be a great option too. So that's what those flashlights are designed to do, for you to hold them and almost get your normal shooting grip on the gun. All right, it's a little better than just touching the flashlight to the gun. All right, so there's some options there, and then really the third option is kind of what I alluded to before, is just turning on the light and holding it somewhere up close to your body and leaning into the target and shooting. It's really truly a one-handed shooting position then, right? But sometimes just leaning into the target, acquiring your sights, getting stable this way with your stance is a lot more stable than this battle with how do I hold the light and getting my hands just right. Sometimes you just got to reach out and start shooting. All right, so one name for this is called the neck index, where you just bring your hand up somewhere by your neck and use the light from here. There's another method that people talk about where you hold the light out away from your body. And this was promoted by the FBI, I guess, for several years, and the theory was you hold your light out here, the bad guy really won't see where you're at. If you hold your flashlight here and the bad guy starts shooting, where are they going to shoot? Right at the light. So what you should do is hold your flashlight way out here, and then this is where they will shoot out. But the problem is, most people in the world are right-handed, and right-handed shooters, where do they usually miss? What's the most popular place for right-handed shooters to miss?
Low left.
So if you're shooting at this light, and where's the bullet gonna go if you miss? Right on me. So for me, if you start really thinking like, I'm gonna hold the light here because they might shoot me, and you're just way overthinking this thing. You're wasting time thinking about stuff that's not gonna happen instead of focusing on moving, trying to get out of this scenario, and if I do have to shoot, getting stable, acquiring our sights, and shooting. All right. So we'll get on the line here in a minute and try some of these different holds. Find which one works best for you, but in your training, don't stop training all of them. Don't after tonight think, the best way for me is to cross my wrist and shoot like that. And so that's the only thing you ever do. Keep trying, try the other ones. You might just have to use them someday. All right? You don't want that to be a foreign thing. It's just like shooting weak-handed. Does everybody like shooting left-handed or weak-handed? No, it's probably not the best, but you need to keep practicing it. In case you get shot in your strong hand and your fingers don't work, what are you going to do? You're going to have to shoot weak-handed. That should be something that's not foreign to you, something that you've tried before, and you know at least the process of how to do it, and have a really good idea of what the results are going to be. Okay, so everybody got a flashlight on their person somewhere? All right, let's do this. We're going to line up on the